The name's Cad Bane.
Tales of the Underworld was just released earlier this week as a May the 4th special, and wow, it seems like the internet has already forgotten about it. Whether you like the Tales series or don't like them at all, one thing seems to be becoming clear is that they are here to stay, and there will likely be more of them. And because these Tales series are likely going to be a yearly occurrence from now on, I thought that I should do my due diligence and review Tales of the Underworld like I would any other Star Wars project. So Tales of the Jedi, which came out a couple years back, I actually was quite fond of. It wasn't groundbreaking storytelling or anything, but it was nice to see some added material to some of the major characters of the Clone Wars. In particular, the arc looking into some of the major chapters in Count Dooku's fall to the dark side was really interesting to me. And my only complaint is that I wish I got to see more. Tales of the Jedi was then followed up by Tales of the Empire, which was a major letdown. They decided to dedicate an arc to Morgan Elsbeth, which is a total throwaway character in my opinion that nobody was yearning to see more of. But regardless, they gave it to us and it left pretty much no lasting impact. And the story that was told I didn't find myself invested in at all. There was also the Barriss Offee arc, which solely served as a character assassination for a potentially really good story for her that was set up back in Clone Wars. So that brings us to Tales of the Underworld, which really felt like it had a lot of pressure on it to succeed. Was it going to be a return to form like Tales of the Jedi? Or was the Tales series going to continue down the really poor path that was Tales of the Empire? And after getting a chance to watch it, I think I myself and most would agree that Tales of the Underworld falls in the middle. While there definitely are some interesting elements to the stories being told here, as well as some other neat things here and there, Tales of the Underworld still suffers from some major problems that plague Tales of the Empire, and to a degree were also present in Tales of the Jedi. Let's start by taking a look at the Ventress arc, and then we'll move into the Cad Bane arc. The Ventress arc was a storyline that I was definitely quite intrigued by. I was never someone that read the Dark Disciple novel, even though I've heard really good things about it, so in my mind, the last time I saw Ventress before her reappearance many years down the line in Bad Batch was at the end of the Clone Wars, where she had become a rogue outlaw, no longer a part of the Separatist army. And while I know that Dark Disciple does provide some of that connecting tissue, considering that the novel is based off of cancelled episodes of the Clone Wars, I still think that there are some pieces that need to be filled in to explain how she got to where she is in Bad Batch. After all, that's kind of what the Tales series can be used for. Little shorts that fill in some of the gaps of the bigger and more important stories. And while I thought these episodes were watchable, it was certainly nothing to write home about. And honestly, to me felt a little uninspired. These episodes seem to be playing it real safe. We start off episode 1 addressing Filoni's major gaffe in Bad Batch, when Ventress somehow appeared even though she was supposed to be dead as per the Dark Disciple novel. Quinlan lays her to rest in the pile of goo, and then she is resurrected by Night Sister magic. I know I'm not the only one that doesn't really like Night Sister magic, but even if you do, I think you've got to admit that this is just cornball is all hell. The major issue I've always had with the Night Sisters is there's no sense of limitations on their powers, or for that matter, what specifically their powers even are, or how it relates to the Force and or differentiates itself from the Force. She literally just comes back to life, just because she wants to. This incredibly damages the stakes for any confrontation her character will have later in her life, because now we know that she can't die because of this stupid magic. I don't know what the hell the problem is with just having a character die and stay dead, but I guess we just have to bring everybody back to life nowadays. We then cut to her new life as a ticket salesman, it looks like? I don't know, she checks people into the ticket place it seems, which is a pretty dull existence for someone like Asajj Ventress. And even her boss asks why she wants the job, and she says she likes the peace and quiet. If I had the whole galaxy at my fingertips, I think there would be a lot more enjoyable ways to spend peace and quiet if that's truly what you're after. We are then introduced to Lyko, who is clearly a runaway Jedi and not very good at hiding it. And somehow, this total moron of a character survived Order 66. Pretty much at this point, they might as well retcon Order 66. Because more survivors seem to be popping up with every new story, it's getting to the point where it almost feels like Order 66 wasn't even successful. If this many people are surviving what was originally supposed to be the order that wiped out all of the Jedi except for 2, as we see in the original trilogy. I was not a fan of Lyko in this story. He's a fucking nuisance, an overall annoyance, and really doesn't add anything to the story besides just being a device to move the plot forward. When the two get into a sticky situation and are forced to defend themselves, they attempt to leave in a hurry, but are tracked down by an Inquisitor. Oh shit, I really hope they don't just introduce another Inquisitor just to kill him moments later, and that's exactly what they do. Filoni has had a really bad habit of doing this as of recent. It happened in Tales of the Jedi, it happens in Ahsoka with Marok, or at least I think he was an Inquisitor, and it happens here. I hate it when he does this. Introduce a really cool looking villain, prop them up like they're going to be some major antagonistic force, and then just kill them soon after. It's really frustrating. Also, I doubt I'm not the only one, but I found this lightsaber fight to be really bad. And it's not the choreography per se, it more so comes down to the editing and shot selection is terrible. They're cutting every quarter to a half a second. Most of the shots are close-ups or medium close-ups. I found myself really struggling to keep up with what was even going on. Animated lightsaber fights have always been the best when the edits aren't super fast, and the camera takes a step back to really paint a picture. But that is far from the case here. And that does it for episode 1. Episode 1 is probably the worst of the arc and the worst of the show. There are a lot of problems with it, and I found it a very frustrating episode. We are off to a bad start. Episode 2, thankfully, is a little bit of an improvement. I really don't have a whole lot to say about episode 2 because it's mostly just a big action set piece, which was pretty entertaining to see play out for what it's worth. We got to see the return of Latz Razi from Clone Wars, which was a welcome addition. The new droid bounty hunter I also thought had a cool design and had some interesting functionality, but really the only big takeaway to be had from episode 2 is that Lyko has come around to trusting Ventress. After Latz and the robot dude were going to sell him out because of the price on his head being a Jedi and all. I think that this is an interesting step in Ventress's journey as a character. She was once a deadly assassin of the Sith, someone who only cared about herself and pleasing her master, to becoming someone who isn't necessarily good per se, but has a level of loyalty and honor to her towards the people that she cares about. It's a step in the direction which will probably lead to her becoming some type of gray Jedi down the line. Episode 2 I think is the best of the arc, and definitely the most entertaining to watch. Episode 3, we see Ventress and Lyko journeying into the desert looking for the Jedi path. I don't really know why though Ventress is helping Lyko so much, or at least to the lengths that she is. I know she is no friend of the Jedi, and while she might not be a Sith anymore, I don't think at this point in the timeline that she would be this invested in getting some random Jedi that she just met to safety at the risk of her own life, or at least to the extent that she does. But anyways, they make their way to a settlement in the middle of the desert, and inside is an old man and his grandfather. This old man is revealed to have been an important part of the Separatist war effort, and because of that he has a great deal of respect for Ventress. And it was pretty interesting to see how Ventress wasn't really comfortable with this warm embrace. It shows that she has moved past what she was and might not even be comfortable with her past to a significant degree. Ventress and Lyko agree to help the two retrieve water, because apparently it's dangerous because it's being guarded. Come to find out that it's these little gremlins that are causing all the commotion. But apparently they're the good guys, because they're just protecting what's theirs. Why these aliens believe that they have such a claim to it? Who knows? The show doesn't care to answer. Lyko convinces the chief of the alien people to deal with the Separatist guy, and Separatist man doesn't want to because he believes that he is at war with these people. There actually is a pretty solid thematic undertone here. A man feeling like he's constantly at war with everybody because that's all he's ever known, and having to learn to move past that and change his core beliefs has the potential to be something really compelling. The only problem is that theme was delivered in a pointless and uninspired story such as this one, so it falls completely flat and unearned. At the end of the episode, Ventress and Lyko find their way to the path thanks to their newfound alien buddies. How these little guys just know where the path is, when you'd think that that would be something that the Jedi would want to keep very secretive, considering they're being hunted by the entire galaxy? Don't know. Just go with it. The plot needs it to happen. Ventress and Lyko say their goodbyes until they decide to pull a whoops, gotcha, and I guess these two are just going to be partners moving forward. So Ventress has an annoying little friend to take care of now. Yay! Ugh, I swear to God, Dave, please do not make Lyko an important character in any of the upcoming Star Wars projects. Please. I know you have a tendency to want to make your original creations the most important people in the galaxy, but this time, just do me a solid. Overall, the Ventress arc does have some pretty entertaining moments in it, plus some good development for Ventress's character, especially for this moment in her life when she's going through a major change as a person, but the arc is sadly bogged down by worthless side characters, some very questionable writing decisions, too many plot conveniences, and overall pretty unimaginative stories being told. For a show titled Tales of the Underworld, you'd really think that this arc would have more to do with the actual Underworld, but it sadly isn't really about it at all to much degree, and that's disappointing to say the least. Moving on to Cad Bane's story, it was certainly the better out of the two. There are a lot of interesting elements about Cad Bane's backstory which are introduced that I really wish they would have fleshed out more, but that's more of the fault of this being a short show, where the episodes are only 12 minutes long, instead of the runtime being long enough to actually tell a proper story. Ever since Cad Bane was introduced all the way back in the early parts of the Clone Wars, to my knowledge there has never been any exploration into his origins, so the prospect of getting a backstory for Cad Bane had me quite intrigued, to say the least. We start out with Cad Bane as a child. He's a street rat, seemingly an orphan, and he's got his best buddy Nero who's in the same situation. Seeing the two go through their day-to-day lives, struggling to survive, the show does a really good job from the get-go getting the point across that these two kids are outcasts, not just from the other kids, but also from society as a whole. They are desperate for an opportunity, and when a strange man in quite the intimidating outfit gives them one, they take the chance. It eventually culminates at the end of the episode, when a mission that they're on goes completely wrong. Cad Bane is barely able to escape while Nero is captured. This singular moment changes the trajectory for the both of them for the rest of their lives. And the show does a really good job of helping us understand that. If Nero was able to keep up and escape, then him and Cad could have continued to be best buds for the rest of their days. But him getting caught is what ultimately leads to the detriment of their relationship years down the line. Episode 4 is personally my favorite of the show. That's probably a controversial take, but this is the only one where I didn't see any glaring issues. I thought it was competent storytelling from start to finish, and does a good job at portraying the inciting incident for the rest of Cad Bane's life. Episode 5, we have a big time jump. Cad Bane is now in his later teenage years, and he has earned himself some credibility. However, Laszlo still looks out for him like he's young, denying him the chance to go on the crew's next mission. When Laszlo ends up getting killed on the next mission, Cad swears revenge on whoever was the cause of his death. It sucks to see Laszlo go this soon, but ultimately I thought it was a really good setup for the episode to come. However, as the episode goes on, there are some writing decisions made that I was not too fond of. So, Cad Bane goes back to the city where he grew up and bumps into Nero. The two have a warm embrace at first, but the topic of their current occupations comes up pretty quickly. And when Nero reveals that he's a cop now, Cad Bane just decides on the spot that Nero is dead to him. This feels completely unrealistic. There is no nuance to the situation whatsoever. Nero is just dead to Cad, and I don't really understand why. Sure, I understand that Cad is an outlaw, and Nero is now a cop, and obviously outlaws and cops are typically going to be at odds. But why does that mean that they can no longer have a relationship? It would be interesting if we got to see the two trying to continue being friends, but ultimately their two differing factions get in the way of that. This sudden decision the writers made of just putting the friends against each other felt like the easy way out to me. It seems to me that they didn't really want to write a compelling relationship struggle between them. And it's a shame, cause we're in the middle chapter of the arc, and I think that that would be the logical next progression in their relationship. The episode ends with the lawman going in alone against Cad Bane, although he certainly didn't have to. Wouldn't he want to go in with a bunch of backup? Why wouldn't you want to have the odds tipped heavily in your favor in this situation? You want to know why? Because the writers need the plot to happen. The two then decide to have a standoff. It's very tropey. There's no reason why it has to play out like this. I didn't like it. It kind of took me out of the experience. It feels very forced in there just so they could artificially insert a Western feel, but they didn't have to do that. It already gave off those vibes. So Cad Bane wins the shoot-off. The cops then, of course, show up right after it's concluded in very convenient fashion, and Cad Bane gets arrested. It's a solid episode, don't get me wrong. There are a lot of elements to like here, but I don't think the writing quality was quite as smooth. Now, on to episode 6, the arc finale. I don't really have too much to say about this episode. All it really is people talking about how Cad Bane is coming home on a shuttle. He shows up, and it's all just a big lead up to the shoot-off at the end between the once best friends. The thing that is really of interest here is the kid, Isaac. It isn't explicitly stated, but considering how the dialogue is arranged, and also assuming that Duro's pigmentation likely works the same way as humans does, it is likely that Isaac is in fact Cad Bane's son. And it even seems like that is the last point that Nero is trying to get across to Cad as he's dying, when he says the line, "Not everything." You can see in Cad Bane's face for a slight moment that orphaning that innocent boy was something that tore his heart a little. Considering that he was an orphan boy as well, he can see himself in Isaac, but he quickly shakes it off, puts on a stone-cold Cad Bane face again, and walks off. It is a pretty emotionally significant exit. I will give the story credit for that. And that ends episode 6. Overall, I think the Cad Bane arc was decent, but ultimately falls a little short of being something I would consider good. There are a lot of good ideas here, some good world building, some interesting character development for Cad Bane, especially earlier in the arc, but I think the undercooked relationship between Nero and Cad holds this arc back from being great, because ultimately, that's what is at the center of this story, the struggle between the two of them. But after the walls go up between them early in episode 5, there's not much development in the relationship after that, and it just stays the same. So, if I had to give Tales of the Underworld a score, what am I giving it, you may ask? Well, the Ventress arc for me gets a 4 out of 10. It's watchable, there's some good stuff sprinkled in here and there, but it's not something that I liked all that much. The Cad Bane arc is getting a 5 out of 10. It is right up the middle, average. As I just stated, there's a lot of cool ideas and story concepts, but the undercooked relationship really holds it back. Combine those two together, and I'm giving Tales of the Underworld a 4.5 out of 10. Slightly below average. Meh, you might say. So with all that being said, that's gonna do it for my thoughts on Tales of the Underworld. If you guys have any thoughts of your own about Tales of the Underworld, then make sure to take to the comments below, because I will be interested to hear your guys' thoughts on the series. If you've stuck around up to this point and you like this video, then please consider leaving a like and hitting that subscribe button. But anyways, that's all I got for today. I will see you guys in the next one.